the audience put the challenge to me when I was asked, how many people do you think you've slept with in the past year? And I think I said, 300. And they were like, well, how many do you think you could sleep with in a year? And that's when I was like, I love a challenge. So I'm going to see how many I can do. And that's when I did, the 600 guys in a year. And then I did 1,000. And then you kind of get to a point where it's like, how am I going to top myself?
Annie Knight, welcome to Fascinated.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Now let's start at the beginning. You have had a rather interesting life for quite a young person. What was your childhood like growing up in Melbourne?
My childhood was completely normal. I went to a private all-girls Catholic school. I grew up in Port Melbourne. I had beautiful, loving parents, despite what many people think. I just had a very regular Australian life, I feel, as a young person. Just very, very run-of-the-mill.
Would you describe it as privilege? Like you went to Loreto, which is one of Melbourne's top schools. You had a beach house, I understand, in Portsea. Like I would say that was a privileged upbringing.
Sorry, yes, a privileged upbringing, but very, very normal in the sense of I, had a regular family. I didn't have any trauma, nothing like that.
So then I think often we'll talk about women in the sex industry, and they will have often had a tough life. They often come from, not always, but they often come from a disadvantaged background. And I think you sound like you had the opposite. So how does one end up in this industry?
I think for me, I've just always wanted a life where, I'm in charge of my life and my work. I don't have to answer to anyone. I always wanted to, be successful and make a lot of money and make a name for myself. And so I think, I don't know, for me, it just sort of happened naturally. I was working in marketing and then I guess I was good at marketing, and believe it or not, the adult industry, you really need to be good at marketing in order to build a name for yourself. So I just decided to give it a go and use my marketing degree and my marketing skills, and it just paid off. But I think it's just like the way that I was drawn to the industry was very interesting. I had a friend at the time who was a stripper, and everyone seemed to judge her and make it seem like it was crazy. But I always just thought, oh, why not? Like, she's just making money. She's doing what she wants to do. And I never really understood the judgment towards it. So, when I heard of OnlyFans, I thought, I'm just going to give it a go, and I don't really care what anyone thinks of me, and I'm going to try to make as much money as I possibly can. So that's how we ended up here.
When you finished school, I did read that you wanted to do medicine. So it's a fair pivot.
Yeah, I think, I was a very high achiever and a perfectionist at school. And I think when I was choosing what I wanted to do with my life, I wanted to choose the hardest possible career. And that was like being a brain surgeon. I wanted to challenge myself, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then as I left school and started studying, I realized, I'm not passionate about this. It's not fulfilling. I don't feel fulfilled. It's just not the path for me. And that's when I decided to take a bit of a gap year and figure out what I wanted to do from there.
Wow. So you wanted to be a neurosurgeon?
Mm-hmm.
Again, fair pivot. So tell me about the moment that you decided to quit your job, so you're in marketing, and actually do adult entertainment. Was it one day that made you say, okay, I'm going to give this a go?
Well, I think it was, it was like a sort of slow process, and then it was very abrupt. So I was traveling like an hour to work each day, working 9 hours, traveling an hour back home. And I was exhausted and I was slaving away. And I kept thinking to myself, even if I make it to the absolute top of my industry, I'm still only going to be making like 120 grand a year, which I realize is a lot of money for some people, but not enough for me to buy a house one day, and not enough to feel comfortable and live the life that I really wanted to be living. And I just kept thinking about it every day on the drive to work. I kept thinking, what if I made an OnlyFans account? And then I thought, what is stopping me? I'm just going to do it. So I did it, but kept it on the down low for a little while, made enough money to save, like 50 grand. And then basically one day I came into work and they'd found out about my OnlyFans and they ended up firing me because of it. So
what was that like?
Look, it was interesting because I was upset at the time, mostly because I felt like it was really unfair. In my opinion, you can't just fire someone based off what they're doing outside of work. It felt like discrimination, and I think that's why I was like angry to begin with. But I also felt this like immense relief when I got fired, because it felt like I was being given permission to follow my dreams and do what I really wanted to be doing, which was OnlyFans full time. It was like an odd day for me, but mostly I felt relieved.
Did you always have enough confidence to do OnlyFans? I don't know. I'm not familiar with the platform, I will confess, at all. But did you have enough confidence to, I guess, take your clothes off on the internet and get men to watch it? Like, were you nervous?
I was actually like a super insecure 23-year-old at the time. I didn't think that I was attractive. I didn't think that people would want to see me. I think it was just this overwhelming need for like a bigger life and for more in life that was, I guess, the reason why I ended up doing it. And it's actually interesting because I think OnlyFans really helped build my confidence. I am such a confident, secure person now, and I really don't believe I would have got to this point without OnlyFans. But yeah, at the time of doing it, it was like the scariest thing ever. I thought people were going to call me ugly. I thought no one was going to buy anything. I thought it was going to be a huge failure. So, you know, it ended up a success.
And did you start off by getting people to request what they want you to do, or did you just post videos online and they just subscribe? How does it work?
Yeah, I was just posting. Well, initially I was like, I'm just going to post lingerie content and make millions of dollars. Obviously, that's very unrealistic and not what happened. But then, yeah, I started getting requests from people saying, you know, I want to see this or I want to see that, and this is how much money I'm willing to pay. And that's when I was like, right, okay, I'm willing to push the boundaries just a little bit to make that extra money.
So you're doing this, it's your full-time job, and then at some point you're going to tell your parents. You're obviously a grown woman. I suppose you don't have to tell your parents, but how did that happen? How did that go down?
Not well. I basically procrastinated telling my parents. So I actually got fired and had been doing OnlyFans for 3 months full time. And it was the active lying to my mom every time she called me. She's like, how's work going? And she still thought I was working my marketing job, but I just didn't know how to tell her. So I put it off. And then there was a news story that broke on Facebook that was about how I got fired for doing OnlyFans, and my mum was scrolling on Facebook and she saw that article. So yeah, she was devastated. She was angry. She was upset. She didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. It was a really difficult time because she's like my best friend. But yeah, thankfully she finally picked up the phone and called me, and I guess her biggest issues were like my safety and my future and finding a partner and all those things that I guess a mum worries about. But I sort of had an answer for everything. I explained, you know, I had a plan and that I wasn't going into this, you know, blind. So she was okay after that.
What about your dad?
Dad, again, should have learned from mum, but I procrastinated again. And my dad's very like offline. So I just thought, oh, I'll probably get away with this for a little bit longer. And it was actually when I started going viral for being Australia's most sexually active woman after appearing on the Carl and Jacqui O show. The Daily Mail did some digging and ended up finding my dad's address and rocked up at his house and asked, oh, so what do you think of your daughter being Australia's most sexually active woman? And my dad was like, and he's like, he told the reporter to F off. And then he called me at 7 a.m. And I knew the second my phone rang at 7 a.m. that he was calling me about that. And yeah, he was honestly fine. He basically said, you know, are you happy? I said, yes. He said, is it true you're making X amount of money a month? And I said, yes. And he said, fair enough. I'd probably do it too if I could.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm very
fortunate. Sure everyone's dad. I mean, as I said, your own person and feminism is about choice, obviously. So it's not up to your dad or your mum to approve what you do. But I did read that your mum actually went through, she had her friends or people in her vicinity that were quite judgmental. And I imagine that was hard for you to deal with.
I think that honestly is the hardest thing about being in the industry. It's not, I don't care what people say about me. I don't care how they treat me because I've got my friends and family and that's all that matters. What hurts me the most is when my friends and family get affected by other people and their actions and their judgment and you know, the sniggering behind their back, or if they're not going to get accepted for a job because of me, because they're friends with me.
Has that happened?
My friends have to be really careful about posting me on their social media. I've had friends that have said that their bosses said you cannot post with Annie Knight on socials. And, you know, I've had a friend who had to turn down being a bridesmaid at my wedding because she couldn't be associated with me. So, yeah, it does happen and it's really, really sad. But
do you think there's a double standard there because of these men that are saying they don't want your friends to do this, but at the same time it's men who consume your content?
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. I think at the end of the day, it's usually the people that are consuming my content that have the biggest problem with it, I feel.
You think?
Oh, not all of them, but I think the people, like I would definitely think, like when I get a negative comment on my Instagram, I go onto their profile and every single time it says follow back. Like they are always following, always watching. I dare say the same people that are commenting such hateful things are also subscribed to my page.
So how do you grow a thick skin then? And do you look at making a lot of money, becoming a millionaire? Is that your thick skin because you are making money out of it?
Um, I think I'm a very resilient person. I think I've been through a lot in life, and I think I've faced a lot of like adversity, and I think being in the industry, you just slowly have to grow thick skin as it is. But obviously, taking things to the next level as I have, you really do have to have thick skin, or else you're going to crumble. You're going to end up in the psych ward. So it's just one of those things that you just learn over time. And the thing that keeps me grounded and makes me feel okay with all the bad comments is that I've got such a beautiful circle surrounding me. I've got my friends, my family. They love me unconditionally, and I think that says a lot about, who I am as a person. So that sort of like helps block out all the noise.
So you start doing the OnlyFans content, I assume, in your home, and then you graduate and watching the show Dirty Sexy Money, they talk about you as a stunt girl. Again, new learnings to me. But how do you graduate from going from essentially, I guess, a safe space in your own home or in someone's home to doing these types of acts in public?
So I think, I was doing everything else, the same thing as all the other OnlyFans creators at the time. And yeah, I was making okay money. I was making a lot more than my marketing job. Wasn't enough to set myself up for the future. And I was like, how am I going to stand out from the rest of the girls? And that's when I decided to start talking about my sexual experiences online. And that just straight away blew up, went viral. And I guess it was sort of like the audience put the challenge to me when I was asked, how many people do you think you've slept with in the past year? And I think I said, 300. And they were like, well, how many do you think you could sleep with in a year? And that's when I was like, I love a challenge. So I'm going to see how many I can do. And that's when I did, the 600 guys in a year. And then I did 1,000. And then you kind of get to a point where it's like, how am I going to top myself? Let's see how many I can do.
Most of us don't get to that point.
Well, like the reality is the difference from, I was earning 20K a month. I went up to 600K a month. Like that is the big difference between doing what everyone else is doing and then thinking outside the box and doing something that no one else is doing. And obviously money is a huge contributor, but I also wanted to like give back to my fans and my subscribers who are literally the reason why I'm in this position. And I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, let's talk about that stunt then. So the image that stuck with me about that, it was actually the men wearing the masks. I found that really creepy. Did you find that creepy?
You know what? I actually chose pink for a reason, because I think if they were wearing black masks, I would have found it creepy. But there was something lighthearted and funny about them in the pink masks that made it like okay. And also, I get like when you're like looking at the social content, you're like, whoa, that seems like really hectic. But you forget like these guys are talking to me and they're all like super normal, and you can see their eyes and you can tell who they are as people. So it wasn't scary at the time, even though it looks like it on socials.
To play devil's advocate, one might say that any man who's willing to queue up for a couple of hours to have sex with a woman for free and be filmed doing it, wearing a mask next to other men with other people in the room filming it, that's not normal.
I mean, no, it's not normal. Like, of course it's not normal, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think at the end of the day, they've been given an opportunity to sleep with, a porn star. That opportunity doesn't come up every day. A porn star that has quite a big for herself in the industry, and they just wanted to have a bit of fun. You only live life once, so why not take part in, a fun day?
How long did each man get?
Mostly it was like 30 to 40 seconds, but if they were like really good, then I let them stay for a bit longer.
This is a lot for me. This is a lot. So 30 or 40 seconds, that's what they got?
Well, yeah. We had to get through a lot of people.
So how many hours did it go for?
It was 6 hours. Yeah, 6 hours.
Did you get a break?
I did like hour increments, and then I would have like a 5 to 10 minute break in between just to like eat some food or quickly have some water or clean up a little bit. But if I waited too long, I would start to like the adrenaline would wear off. So I kind of wanted to keep it going.
Did you think about stopping at any point?
No, it honestly went so quickly, because it was just like each group of guys that came through was so different. It was such a fun experience and different experience with each group of people that, I don't know, it just flew by. And I had staff checking in on me every 15 minutes to make sure I was all good. And I said, if I do want to stop, I will, but I never felt the need to.
Could you walk the next day?
You know what? I could. Everything down, well, the next day, everything down there was fine. It was my arms from like propping myself up so much. That was
Oh,
what hurt so much. Like just my arm strength was just not good.
wow. So this was sort of the game changer for you, though, this event, in terms of your following and your money making, yeah? So it was worth it from a financial point of view.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm in my dream home right now that I bought with the money that I made from that event. So I definitely say it was worth it.
You bought a whole house in one day.
Pretty much. I think I bought this house like the week after I did the challenge. And yeah.
Wow. So physically, you do all that, but then you end up getting you've got endometriosis. You've spoken about this before. Was that part of that flare up then from the event itself?
You know, I had actually had like continuous bleeding from January through to May when I did the event. It was like an ongoing issue I'd been having, and I couldn't get to the bottom of it. And then the week of the event, it miraculously stopped. And I was like, wow, it's a sign. Everything's all good again. Did the event, and then a few days after the event, I started bleeding again, and I was in quite a bit of pain. I was worried it was like related to the event. The doctors couldn't find any proof of that, so I don't know if it was just the bleeding had started up again, or if it had been triggered by the event. I'm not really sure.
Okay. So do you think then you do this event and you're doing the show now, do you need to become more extreme, more extreme, more extreme to stay relevant and to continue to make money?
That was true for a while. I feel like once I started doing like the 300 guy in a year challenge, every year I would have to sit down and like, I guess, brainstorm, like, what am I going to do this year to stay relevant? Because there's always that fear that people are just going to forget about you and the money's going to disappear. So you do kind of have to keep one-upping yourself. But I kind of this year got to the point where, I'm getting married this year. My life is sort of going down a slightly different path. And I think, the timing of the TV show was actually just like so perfect because I'm moving away from challenge style content. I'm wanting to be a little bit more wholesome and I guess get a bit more creative with the style of content I'm doing and focus more on like social media and my podcasts and stuff like that instead.
So what do you mean by more wholesome content when you're an OnlyFans creator?
My OnlyFans content will be focusing more on like solos and like solo content and custom content. I've been getting a lot of custom requests and just like really building like a relationship with my subscribers. So very girlfriend experience as opposed to doing like lots of stunts and making my money that way. So making a bit more personal. But then with my social media content, just wanting to sort of, I don't know, be more creative with that and I guess be more open on socials.
Do you have a responsibility? And I mean, I sort of wrestle with this question a little bit, and we'll come to the Fiji issue and Schoolies issue later, but do you have a responsibility to young women or do you feel like that is unfair for me to ask that kind of question when you say you're normalising this type of behaviour where you have sex with nearly 600 men in a day? Is that what, therefore, younger men, they see that, they expect that from women in the real world?
I think there's definitely a responsibility put onto me. I think anyone that's in, the public eye, there is a level of responsibility that they, owe to the public. And so, yeah, there's like young women watching my content. And that's why I really do try to show the good sides and the bad sides of the industry. I don't try to glamorize anything. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And in pretty much every video I make talking about it, I really do highlight that. I never, ever would try to convince anyone to join the industry. But in terms of like men, in the way that I've done, my events and my challenges, my number one thing has always been consent and respect. So, when I was filming, with Schoolies or Spring Breakers or whatever, there was always so many conversations being had, breathalyzers, checking that they're okay. I turned guys away. Like there's really a lot of red tape that I try to put in place to try to protect the people that I am filming with. And I try to show that in my videos as well. So when you watch the videos on my OnlyFans, you see from the minute they walk through the door to the minute they leave what goes into it.
There were a lot of mothers at the time concerned about their sons. And again, I'm not sure, I think Schoolies can also be boys and men that are under 18. So did you check them for ID when you were in these areas? And what did you think of the criticism from mothers that you were essentially a predator after their sons?
Well, yeah, we obviously did check IDs. We had security check IDs. Like it was, like I said, there was a lot of red tape. we weren't by any means prowling the streets, picking, 18-year-olds off the street saying, want to come back to our place. It was not like that at all. We simply said, this is where we're going to be. If you're interested in participating, please come. These are the rules. When they got there was a lot of rules as well. Like I said, we turned people away. They had to get breathalyzed. We were by no means trying to prey on these people. It was just meant to be like a mutually beneficial experience. They get to receive a service for free in return for, us being able to, sell that content online. And at any point they could have turned around and revoked their consent. And
and what happens if they do? Have you had that happen? And what if there's multiple men in this video at the time? Does everyone then get kicked off and you delete the whole thing?
Yeah, so after my 583 guy challenge, I had, because that's the other thing, I gave my number. I have a work number that I give to everyone I film with, and they can message me personally on that to get the content taken down. So I had a message from one of the guys that participated saying that someone had, realized his identity and they wanted to get the videos removed, and I did that. There was other guys in that specific video, and I took that video down, no worries, took down all the clips on Twitter. I'll always do whatever I can to protect the people that I'm filming with, because that's their life. I'm going to, do whatever I need to protect them.
Have you ever regretted any stunt that you've done?
No, never. I mean, I regret working with certain people, but I don't.
Bonnie Blue.
But I don't necessarily regret anything that I've done, no.
So I found it interesting. So the Fijian immigration minister did kick you out of the country to safeguard Fiji's integrity and immigration system. What was that like?
Really scary. We were actually about to head out for a photo shoot when our publicist called us and said, immigration's on their way to arrest you. So we just manically packed up our stuff. We booked flights on the way to the airport, got to the airport. I actually didn't get technically kicked out because I actually boarded my flight before I could get served the papers. But it was really scary. I was writing down lawyers' numbers. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. But in the end, it all worked out okay. I got home fine and it was all good.
And so your relationship with Bonnie Blue, who you worked with initially with a lot of these stunts and a lot of these trips, she's someone who you would never speak to again?
Yeah, no, she was I thought a really good friend of mine, but she turned around and stabbed me in the back a couple times, and I was pretty upset by that. Felt like a big betrayal, and so she's not someone I want anything to do with.
Now, I guess for you now, you talk about maybe making more wholesome content. Is part of that because you've got a fiancé now who many of us here in Melbourne know he comes from quite a well-known family. Is that part of the reason to move away from that more extreme public stunt?
Yeah, I think, there's a few reasons. Absolutely. I'm getting married and I really want to focus on my relationship, and things are just different now. But also, there's only so much you can do in the stunt world. Everything's sort of been done now, and there's not much more I can do that's going to top it and make it in the media. So what's the point of continuing down that path? But I would say, mostly it's because I'm sort of entering my wifey era.
It's an unusual life, I'll give you that. So with Henry, and for those who don't know, Henry Brayshaw, son of well-known broadcaster James. And how did you you'd been friends for a long time, but how did you initially navigate that space when you did get together? The fact that you sleep with other men for a living?
Mm-hmm. It was really difficult because we'd known each other for such a long time. Henry had been there the day that I called him saying that I'd started an OnlyFans account. He'd given me ideas at times. He'd actually come up with some of my, event ideas and stunt ideas. He actually helped with a lot of that. So it was interesting transitioning from that to then being in a relationship together and then being engaged, because his boundaries did shift. And it was sort of hard for me to understand that at the time, because he was fine with me doing the challenge and then he wasn't all of a sudden. And I couldn't quite understand that, like, obviously his feelings for me had changed a lot. And it was a pretty difficult time, the first sort of 3 months of our engagement, sort of navigating that and learning to communicate and to compromise. And I think Henry really wanted to let me still do everything I was doing and didn't want to be the reason that, I didn't make as much money or I wasn't as successful. And so he tried to be okay with it, but inevitably he wasn't. And my response to that was fine. No more challenge content.
So that's it now. You'll never do another challenge?
No more challenges, no.
No. And so what's the conversation that you have with him when you get home and, like, for example, that day when you've slept with close to 600 men? Like I imagine most partners would find that an incredibly difficult conversation to have.
I think he was obviously quite prepared for it because he knew the event was coming up. So when he was actually away for work at the time, so I called him and, he just said, "How did it go?" And I was like, "Good." And he said, "Were all the guys nice? Did anything bad happen?" I said, "No, it went very smoothly." He felt comforted by the fact that I had 10 of my friends there to support me and make sure I was okay during the day. And he's quite close with those friends, so he really lent on them. And then he said, "Right, well, that sounds good. I'm glad it went well." And then we moved on to whatever else we're talking about. I think it's important you don't dive into details. It's not nice to hear about every single thing that went on during that time.
No. Is it unusual for OnlyFans stars to have a partner and a long-term partner and to get married?
Absolutely not. It is actually super common. There's not many people in the industry that I know of that don't have partners. I think obviously for obvious reasons, they try to protect their relationship and try not to share too much of it. But yeah, pretty much everyone in the industry that I know of has a partner and is happy with them. And it's completely normal to be able to be in the industry and find a healthy, relationship.
So for him, will he have his family at the wedding? Has that been a challenge to have a relationship with his dad?
Henry and his dad, them not having a relationship has nothing to do with me. So yeah, that they've got their issues and that's between them. So no, he won't be there on the day.
Is that sad?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, Henry does love his dad and it would have been great to have him there, have all the support. My parents will both be attending. But at the end of the day, his mum is coming and his mum is a beautiful woman and she loves me, she loves us, she supports us. So that means the world to us.
So what will an average day look like for you once you are married? Like you say, you're pulling away and you're not going to do any more of this stunt content. So what will your day look like? And will you have to, I guess, forego a lot of the money that you've been making now?
I think I've made it to the point now where I can still make the same amount of money without my stunt content. I haven't done a stunt now in over a year and my earnings haven't suffered at all. It's just about, keeping relevant, keeping in the media, making sure people are still interested in what I'm selling. So, my day-to-day life, it hasn't changed too much. The only difference is I'm not collaborating as much as I was. I was working a lot the past 3 years. I was filming with guys sometimes, 3 times a day, 15 times a week. It was really hard work. I'm not doing that so much anymore. Like I said, it's more social media content, solo content. I am still collaborating with creators in the industry, but that's pretty much all.
So is that how you describe what you're selling now?
Yeah, pretty much. And, my days, we're busy people. There's a lot of admin that goes into running an OnlyFans page, which people don't realize. It's not just, taking photos and making money. There's a lot of work, a lot of socials to control. And you really have to market.
Within reason, what's the weirdest thing anyone's asked you? Is there ever been a funny thing that some blokes asked you to do and you've been like, "I'm not doing that"?
I get so many odd requests. I got one the other day he wanted me to shove crisps into my face and let the crumbs fall everywhere and then lick them up after. I've had people ask me fully clothed and step on crisps or pretend they're a little gummy bear and I'm a monster. There's so many things, honestly. It's really wild.
Did you do it?
Yeah, of course I did. It's easy.
It's a lot. It's a lot. All right. So how would you describe yourself then? Do you want to have a family one day? Do you want to be a mum?
Yeah, my goal in life is to be a mum. I've always wanted to have a family and be a mum. So, yeah.
So would you want your daughter, if you had one, to do the same career as you've done?
I would never want anyone to be in the industry that I'm in. I think it takes a very special type of person to be able to do it and love it. If I wouldn't want that for her, if she got to an age and she said, "Mum, this is my calling, this is my dream, this is what I want to do," I would absolutely support her. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm never going to try to glamorize the industry or try to convince anyone to join it because it's not great for everyone.
No. So what do you do for fun outside of the industry? Like in your private life, what do you like to do? What's your hobby?
I love my hobbies are gardening. I play the piano. go to the beach. Yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd, honestly. Like I love movies, TV shows, reading books. But yeah, like I have a lot of friends, so we go out for dinners and drinks and just very, regular stuff.
Final question we ask it to everyone. Who fascinates you?
Who fascinates me? Quinn Everly from the show. Very fascinating. She's a hard cookie to crack. Like very fascinating.
Well, they sort of painted you as the villain in the show.
Well, let's just keep watching the episodes and see what happens before we come up with any nasty words. I'm kidding.
Well, it's been good to have you on. Appreciate you doing the podcast, and I guess we'll watch with interest from afar.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. No, I appreciate you having me on.